G'day guys, welcome back. My name is Wildkard. Super Rugby Round 6, Fijian Drua versus the mighty Queensland Reds. Yeah, this was a pretty interesting game, in my opinion. Now, Les Kiss is obviously moving up the ladder to become the next Wallabies head coach, and he's obviously exploring a lot of the ideas for the Wallabies in terms of the kicking game, in terms of the way that he rotates play around, the defensive structure, and the emphasis in the set piece in terms of scrummaging and the line-out moves, or just fundamentals to Test rugby. And it is really good to see that some of the strategies and ideas that you really would expect from the highest level of the game is being deployed here for the Reds. Now, one of the, I talk about England rugby and I talk about playing the spreadsheet being something that's probably a bit too overdone, especially in the Test arena with teams like England. I do think that the Reds play the spreadsheet a little bit here to the right results, to to the right ideas. I think they actually did really well in terms of playing the spreadsheet game in this one against the Fiji. Now, one of the main things playing Fiji, the big challenge, the 16th player on the field for the Fijians, is the weather. Extremely humid, extremely hot conditions, and the Queenslander comes out and says, "Oh, it's the same in Queensland." I'm pretty sure it is a lot more humid. The humidity, it is humid in Queensland, but it's a lot more humid, and it's a completely different level in Fiji. If you watch at the end of the games, the players were literally on the ground, like gasping for air for the Reds team after they won. And it just showed, how difficult it is to play these games. In fact, a couple weeks ago, I think I made a video about they shouldn't be giving breaks to the players in these conditions because it's part of the struggle for the game. Unfortunately, I actually did a bit of looked into this a little bit. Apparently, heat can, to my surprise, can actually kill healthy young players if it was too much. Apparently, there was a rugby league player died from a professional player died from his stroke in an overly long training session in the heat. So it is actually possible, and this guy is currently suing rugby league for this. I mean, I'm surprised he didn't die from boredom, but I guess his stroke is a real thing. So yeah, it is completely understandable when if in fact there is a health risk involved. So yeah, I'll take that back. I'll take back what I said about not giving players breaks and just let it go on. And yeah, it is apparently quite dangerous if overdone. And as a result, the coaches understood the challenge of playing the heat and really played that as a strategy for the Reds. So you might notice there's a lot more kicking from the Reds, a lot more emphasis in territory. If you look at some of the stats, the Reds prioritize territory above everything else. Even at halftime, the Reds was leading by 6-7, and the assistant coach in the interview, people were like, "Well, how do you feel about this?" And this assistant coach was like, "Yeah, we feel really good. This is exactly how we wanted to do, how we wanted to play, despite the scoreboard only showing like a 1-point advantage. And then if the jurors hasn't missed, one of their penalties, they would have been ahead as well." So it was, it showed that they understood where the game needs to be won. And if you look at the stats, the Reds lost pretty much every stat except for territory, which was, I think at halftime was like over 60%. So they understood that is the area they wanted to win. And the reason you want to play the territory is the fact that, you have to, if you want to score, the Reds we can give you the ball. And if you want to score, you have to run 60, 70, 80 meters to score. And they're happy to defend, to let you run the ball as much as you want, as long as it's from your half of the field. And that was a very clear emphasis in this game, and specifically in terms of deploying the kicking game. And I thought that's just actually quite smart. That is the kind of statistic you want to be pursuing, in a way that is clearly going to advantage you, not just because, oh, we're going to do this because this will give us the highest probability of winning the game according to historical data, right? You wanted to look at a real reason you want to pursue this kind of statistic kicking game. And the reason is it's really hot And if you want to run your boys 80 meters to score tries, 60 meters to score tries, go for it. We're happy to just be more efficient than you in terms of defense, be more efficient than you in terms of attack. And sure enough, in the second half, you can see the exhaustion of both teams, and the Reds just kept it simple, kept it tight. None of the tries from the Reds was any sort of flashy running tries. They were just kind of like heads up rugby, set piece more try, and yeah, and that's more than enough. 3 tries, and that's it. Boom, bonus point win. And like the coaching stuff said as well, they were pretty happy the way that was going, despite the scoreboard only leading by 1 at halftime. So I was, again, very, very good, and it shows a lot of good strategic thinking from the Reds, and a good sign for Let's Kiss to have that sort of ideas going into the becoming the Wallabies head coach in about 6 months or so. As Filippo Dalgunu was playing out of his shoes, just absolutely smashing everyone out there. And this, apparently he had like a huge amount of family members on the field. He's always been absolutely brilliant, but this game was just another level. Again, Dalgunu, I think he's such a special player because he's not the only winger, but the winger that we have that has the best tackling completion rate and just one of the best defenders. And he can definitely be cover that outside center position, in terms of being able to bring that speed and bring this defensive rush defense at the same time. Something that is really valued these days in Test rugby. And I think he can bring that for the Wallabies should we need that. Should we need it for occasion. So that's really good from him. And then the Fijian Druas, it did look like the Reds defense was just too difficult to break through. Especially the Reds was really good at shutting down like the post-contact offloads and stuff. So the Honduras, was looking a little bit out of ideas. One of the ways the Honduras like to be efficient in their energy is to kind of like slow the game down. Not slow the game down, but like kind of taking their time with the goal kicks and, just trying to take the scoreboard over to kind of like give it just kind of like, it's kind of like a start-stop, right? So you want it to burst out as hard as you can, and then you kind of take a break, and you burst as hard as you can, take a break, and the Honduras likes that rhythm. And the Reds has done really well to shut them out of that rhythm and to keep them like constantly working throughout the game with the kicking game, and they're just constantly running back and forward, and that's really taken out a lot of the explosiveness out of the Honduras attack as well. And at the end of the game, I saw the Honduras were quite out of ideas. Armstrong Ravola was kicking some crossfields, something that I don't think I've seen that much. Maybe actually I have seen it actually, but it was just I think there was definitely one against the Waratahs maybe. Oh no, against the Hurricanes they did that. But it just looks like the Honduras was a little bit out of ideas towards the end of the game, and you're just trying to like kind of throw darts on the board and see whatever sticks. There was a bit of an interesting interpretation from the scrummaging by the referee James Dolman as well. We'll talk about this in my previous videos where the scrum is wheeling, and I do feel like Angus Garner's interpretation was a little bit too harsh, especially if one side of the scrum hasn't moved as a result because of a strong contest, and you really have to see the player go in at an angle to really get the penalty for boring in. This time, James Dolman clarified his interpretation of the boring in. So the Reds once again wielded the scrum on the loose hair side, and the tight hair side didn't really move forward. And very similar to what Genghis Garner was, penalized the Hurricanes yesterday, and the explanation for James Dolman is that the Reds hooker actually stepped out and then went in at an angle, and that's caused the scrum to wheel, right? And I guess that's fair enough if you clearly can see that the loose head hooker, loose head prop stepped out to angle his hips inwards. Then yes, you can actually say that's boring in. But I just didn't think that was the case for the Hurricanes yesterday for Angus Garner's referee. But again, we saw a very similar style of the scrum wheeling, from the loose hair side, pivoting around the hinge on the tight head. In the first couple of weeks, this was a straight penalty to the team that was doing the wheel, and then the next couple of weeks, the team doing the wheel was just getting no call, where the referee saying it's not, you got to move forward more, and then now it's actually getting penalized clear shift for how this is being interpreted in Super Rugby referees. So yeah, we'll have to see where they go from here, and like how they're gonna go in terms of interpreting that wheel for the scrum, because it is really important going into the test match. I think the one yesterday with the Angus Garner calls, I thought that was a textbook Springbok loose head, you know, loose head maneuver, and it was penalized and yellow carded by Angus Garner yesterday. And today, a very similar move, and I thought, yeah, again, definitely not straight up should be a penalty to the Reds. I don't think the tight hair side moved forward at all, but to issue that as a like reverse penalty to the opposition, it's a little bit tough. It's a little bit tough, I think. And if the referee really felt that he stepped out, I guess that's something that at least is something that we can look for in the future in those situations. Because like I said, it is almost impossible for the team to not wield the scrum if they have the dominance on one side. Just how physics actually kind of works. And what are you gonna do if you have dominance on one side and you don't have the same dominance on the other side? Are you just not gonna push? Right, and it's a little bit of a head scratcher there, and we'll have to wait more to see more games to get this more clarity on how this is going to work out. Outside of that, Ben Volavola debut for the Reds today. He was a former Fijian starting fly half, and yeah, he actually could potentially play for the Wallabies. To be honest, he hasn't played for Fiji for I think over 3 years, and he's actually born in Australia, so he's actually qualified to play for the Wallabies if we really needed him to be called up. He's always got a good goal kicking boot, and yeah, we'll have to see if that's a thing that's in the future for him. But yeah, that's all I want to say. Let's look at the match stats of the game. 0 tries to 3 for the Queenslanders, 438 run meters to the Fijian Drua, 514, 120 carries for the Fijians. Like, efficiency is much lower, right? And that's the game that the Reds is playing, the efficiency game. 107 carries for the Reds, 514. 29 defenders beaten, doesn't matter. Efficiency is not high enough. 20 defenders beaten for the Reds. The number just changed, right? 17 turnovers conceded for both teams. 116 tackles made for Fijians. 20 missed tackles. 160 tackles made for the Reds. 30 missed tackles. The Reds are happy to play without the ball. Just playing the territory game, as you can see right here. 28 kicks in play for the Fijians. 31 for the Reds. No conversions lost. 1 penalty goal missed from Ravola in the early game. 966 kicks meters from the Druas. 858 for the Reds. Pretty high. I think this might be the highest so far in this round. Let's see if we got a possession. There's no territory in these stats. But yeah, I'm pretty sure the territory was the big stat that the Reds were playing. There's no stats here, unfortunately. It doesn't look like it. But territory is something the Reds were playing, and yeah, the TV show that was a key emphasis in the game. Lineouts, 16 for the Endurance, 4 lost. So the Reds have done really well in applying pressure there. 12 for the Reds, and only 1 loss for them. Scrum, like I said, even 6 for the Fijians, no loss. 6 for the Reds, 2 loss. And if I thought, again, it's the interpretation of the referees a little bit interesting in my opinion there. Pretty disciplined overall for both teams. 7 penalties conceded for the Endurance, 9 for the Reds. The Reds were under a bit of pressure at one point. There was a yellow card for cynical, kicking the ball out of the ruck. By looking at the replay, it did not look like the ball was kicked out of the ruck. It will look like the ball has been popped out, pushed out of the ruck by the Fijian player on the ground. Like he released the ball and the ball rolled out of the. In fact, it wasn't really a ruck formed, and then Joe Campbell just kicked it forward as the ball rolled out, and the referee said that was a cynical play. I disagree with that, but okay. So yeah, despite the yellow card, the Fijian wasn't able to put any significant damage into the scoreboard. So let's do a quick recap summary of the game. It took 10 minutes for the Fijian Drua after missing the first goal. I think they missed the goal early, the first one, and then 10 minutes on, they got another penalty for the Fijians. They kicked this one 3 points to nil. 24 minutes of the game, the Reds was not gonna keen to take penalties. there was a inside ball from Hunter Wasami to Junkyard Dog, who ran through a little break, and then he linked up with Kalani Thomas to go in for the first try for the Queenslanders. 7 points to 3. 29 minutes of the game. There was an offside against the Reds and the warning for repeated penalties. The Endurers kick another one, 6 points to 7, going into half time. Second half starts, like I said, Jock Campbell immediately, 3 minutes in, got a yellow card for kicking the ball out of the ruck. Allegedly, 55 minutes into the game, there was a so the Reds had like a rock, there was like a rock, maybe 20 something meters out. McLennan Phillips ran the ball like out, and then he threw an inside pass to King Wilson, who ran through a gap, and then he linked up back with McLennan Phillip, and then he ran in for the try. 16 points to 14 for the Reds. 65 minutes in the game, another penalty for the Reds, and instead of going for the 3 points, they were happy to go for the try. They just set up a nice maul, and then Asiata went in for the 7-pointer, 6 points to 21. And that's pretty much it. The Fijian Drua tried to play a bit looser towards the end of the game. There was a couple of crossfield kicks, couldn't quite get to find the targets. But outside of that, couldn't quite get there in the end. The Fijian Drua and the Reds, 3 tries, bonus point win in Fiji. Quite an outstanding achievement there. So let me know your thoughts. Like, comment, and subscribe. And I think the strategy that the Les Kids came up of playing the emphasis on the territory was really, really smart, and I like that. I like that a lot. Like the way that they structure this game plan. Thanks for watching. Have a good one. See you guys later. Cheers.